very good afternoon to you. I'm Howard Feldman. This is the Synthesis Podcast. It is May, which means it's Africa Month. We've approached a number of people and asked them for their thoughts on Africa. And the response that we got from Professor Tshilidzi Marwala was one that we really liked. He said the African narrative is really indicative of what the continent has to offer. And we thought we would talk about the stories that Africa, in fact, does have to offer. Joining us this morning, today, is Dr. McLean. He is the Managing Director of Bigen Global Limited, a leading infrastructure development specialist company founded in South Africa, as well as Professor Tshilidzi Marwala, who is the Vice-Chancellor and Principal at the University of Johannesburg. Gentlemen, a very, very good day to you. How are you both?
God, thank you very much, Howard. We're good.
Howard, I'm quite good also. I hope you're also good.
Reasonably, yeah. So far, not too bad. Look. The truth is, it is May because we know that it's Africa Month, and the weather is gorgeous. We certainly can't complain. That's already one of the good stories about Africa. But Professor, let's start with you. Your quote captivated us because I think, in the simplicity and the truth of it, is so vital. We often do tell the wrong stories or maybe hear the wrong stories about Africa, don't we?
No, absolutely. Obviously, I don't want to underestimate the enormity of the challenges that Africa actually faces today, economically, politically, and otherwise. But certainly, there are many opportunities in the African continent. It is now a proven fact that the African continent is going to have the youngest population in the world. So the Africa story is what we do about that. What do we do about the demographic dividend? How do you get the demographic dividend, which can easily become a demographic liability, So the issues of education are therefore very, very important if we are going to make Africa the Africa that we want it to be. Thank you.
Right. And of course, your focus is education. We've spoken about the innovative ways that you are addressing education at the University of Johannesburg. That's something that has impressed me, and I'm totally, completely amazed by. Dr. McLean, if I can just ask you your thoughts. So you travel extensively through Africa. You work a lot in different parts of Africa. There are obviously so many stories. There's different nuances. To simplify it is obviously unrealistic. But what about the stories, the positive stories, and the stories of potential that you see out there?
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Howard. One of the things that Prof. Marwala mentions is the demographics. About 70% of the population in Africa is under the age of 35. And it is projected to continue to grow as being the most youthful continent well into 2050, 2060. And what I am seeing, and I've just landed, from Nairobi, is that the youth in the continent are hungry. Not hungry in the sense that they are not fed, but hungry in the sense that they're looking for opportunities. They're chasing opportunities. There is resilience in the continent. We're seeing a rise in terms of startup activity in the continent. East Africa is abuzz with innovations. And I mean, innovation is just a response to the challenges that many of our people face in the continent. And instead of people complaining, what I'm seeing is a shift, a recognition that aid is not the answer, but innovation is the answer.
That's fascinating because Africa has so often been associated with aid. The truth is, though, we can't move away from Africa's history. And this has been a tremendous noose around Africa's neck, just to use a very ugly image. But that is the reality of it. Africa was divided politically amongst victors, colonialists. It starts off with a very, very difficult challenge of trying even to find its own identity, doesn't it? I don't know who wants to speak to.
Absolutely. I mean, I think Howard, you actually touch on the issue that is quite important, the issue of connectivity. Because what ought to happen in Africa is that we must have free trade. And for that free trade to flourish, the connectivity must actually be quite good. One of the things that we are often told is that sometimes if you are visiting some parts of the African continent, you sometimes have to go to Europe and then come back to the African continent because we are not connected enough. Here at the University of Johannesburg, we're very worried about the posture of young people. They don't understand what is going on in the rest of the African continent. And we introduced two initiatives around that. We introduced the initiative of the Africa Insights module, where all our students have to take. It addresses issues of African literature. It addresses issues of African politics and the economy. The second one is Africa Innovation by Bus. It's a project where we send our students to the rest of the African continent by bus, because we believe that if you are moving from, for example, OR Tambo, and you are landing in Nairobi, you don't really see.
You might as well have flown to London.
Yeah, you don't really see the Africa that you ought to see. So we said no. We send the students to Namibia, to Botswana, to Zimbabwe, to Mozambique, and to Zambia. And just before the lockdown, we were planning a trip to Kampala via Kigali. And what we say to these students is look for problems. Look for problems as you are traveling, and come up with an innovative idea on how you can address such problems. And they come up with very interesting problems and solutions.
That's really incredible, Dr. McLean.
So one of the things Prof mentions is the issue of connectivity, and I think it has different dimensions. Obviously, the one is how one links up the different countries, and so the road infrastructure, the rail infrastructure, the airlines, and currently it's a challenge because with South African Airways not flying, you can't get to Ghana in a direct flight. So you have to either go through Ethiopia or through Nairobi to get to Accra. And somehow we need to improve the way that movement of goods and people throughout the continent. But secondly, I think there's connectivity in terms of also technology, ICT infrastructure, and we've seen an improvement in terms of connectivity in the continent. And what that is really done is it's spurring a whole range of startup activity in fintech, in ag tech, agriculture, health tech. There's a generation, in essence, that will never use a fixed line telephone because they've just leapfrogged to a mobile. Africa has got the largest, sector in terms of penetration around fintech, mobile money. So ease of doing business. This week I was in Kenya. You just do M-Pesa. You can pay for almost anything, through that. And so, despite I think the legacy that we carry from colonization, we're seeing an improved role around connectivity infrastructure. As Bigen, one of our core activities is looking at rail infrastructure to connect movement of goods from inland into the ports, but also road infrastructure. Nairobi is a construction site at the moment because they're building this expressway. But when it's complete, it just makes ease of doing business way, way, way better. And I think we have a better Africa ahead.
Yeah, one of the things I recall when I was in the commodity trading business was that if we were trying to move commodities from a certain part of Africa to another part, we had to be quite cautious around the rail, because the size of the actual railways differed from one part to another. And that obviously was a problem and talks to the lack of interconnectivity in Africa.
Yes, for sure, and we're seeing improvement. I think we're seeing governments cooperating. In East Africa, there's recognition that there's a need for efficiencies just to move goods, whether it's from Uganda to Mombasa or to Dar es Salaam, or from Zambia or the Congo to Durban or to Dar es Salaam, without actually changing the locomotives. So that is actually improving. I think we're destined for a better Africa. But also, one of the things that I'm seeing, Howard, is we're not building infrastructure just for the sake of building infrastructure anymore. I think we've become more deliberate around infrastructure and the connectivity. So whether it's power generation or power stations and transmission lines, those are now being connected in essence to industrial activity. So I think there's better planning for sure, but still much more work to be done. Yeah.
Professor, if I can just ask you, a couple of factors come together for you, because we spoke about the relative youth of the population in Africa. We speak about education. A lot of students from other parts of Africa are going to come through your university. Is there a shared identity and a shared narrative that is helpful in terms or developing rather in terms of the students?
No, absolutely, absolutely. But it's because when the young people come here at the University of Johannesburg, currently we have 5,000 students who come mainly from our neighboring countries. And at any given time in a classroom, you have multiple languages that are being spoken, and that is what we want. We want people to understand Africa. We want people to understand because if you look, Africa has many languages. One of the controversial tweets that I put forward was the need to have a single African language which everybody must learn, so that you can be able to improve, social cohesion, so that you can be able to improve nation building or continental identity building, and so on and so on. Of course, Africa is diverse. In fact, it is the most diverse continent, in the world in terms of its population. So it is a journey that we will have to be grappling with for the next 100 years. Just here in South Africa, you just look at the identities of people. You have multiple identities in South Africa, and many of these identities actually spill over to other parts of the continent. You go to Zimbabwe, you find South African languages or languages that are also spoken in South Africa being spoken there. For example, isiZulu or Venda, for that matter. Botswana. So we have to deal with these issues if we are going to liberate the productive forces that are necessary for us to economically, take the African continent to a much more positive trajectory.
If there's one, and we do have to wrap it up, unfortunately, Professor, I'm going to ask you first. If there is one narrative in just a sentence or two that you would like to associate with Africa, what would it be? Dr. McLean, that gives you an extra minute to think about it.
Dynamic and optimistic. So, yeah.
Good enough. Dynamic and optimistic. I love that. Dr. McLean, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think it's an Africa that is resilient, an Africa that is innovative, and an Africa that is solving many of the challenges that it faces with, through its own people in a collaborative manner, but also, borrowing whatever they need to borrow from the rest of the world. But it is an Africa that is full of hope, and an Africa that contributes to the rest of the world.
Absolutely love that. Gentlemen, thank you both, Professor Marwala, Dr. McLean. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us. These are the conversations that we need to have. This is the Africa that we need to project. I'm Howard Feldman. This is the Synthesis podcast. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more of these and other podcasts. Have a great day.